Welcome to today's presentation, where we'll be having a look at how to connect D365 Finance with the HR system Sympa. In order to connect the two systems, we'll be using the HR Connect add-in, which we make available on both Microsoft App Store and obviously by inquiring directly to us. Using the add-in, you can connect to Sympa either via a file-based approach, or we can set up an API integration for you, so it's fully automated. Today we're going to be looking at the file-based approach, as it also gives a better understanding of what's happening under the hood as we are processing the HR data. So if I just go to Sympa, then this is the landing page for my demo user in Sympa. And in here, I will be accessing the reporting page. And in the reporting area, I've used a flexible reporting solution to set up a D365 export report. So I'm going to activate that. And then the information that I'm going to be interested in exporting is just the current status of all of my employees. And in order to export all of this information, I'm going to select export and export to Excel. And this now gives me a raw data file that I can import into D365 using the HR Connect add-in. So now that the file is saved to my local hard drive, I can now go back to D365. And in here, we're going to go to the HR module. So right there. And in the HR module, we now have an HR Connect fast tab, which will expand. And given that we want to import the file, I'm going to open up periodic and import worker records. In this dialog, I'm going to select the file that we just generated. This is right there. And once that's uploaded, I'm going to select OK. And this will import all of the HR data from Sympa into D365 into a staging table, where the HR Connect module will apply a lot of parameters and mappings to make sure that we can process it further into the various tables in Dynamics. And now that we have imported the file, then before we process the actual transactions, then let's just go and have a look in the staging area. So back in the HR module under HR Connect, we can now go to inquiries and imported worker records. And in here, as we can see, we have all of the Sympa HR demo data imported as our status reflects. And once we start processing this, this will also become an error handling area. So if it's successfully created and processed, the status will get updated to processed. And if there's any errors in creating a particular worker record, then the status will switch over to error. Furthermore, we can also see that the system has identified the correct company for each employee. So this is where HR Connect is starting to apply some of its underlying mappings. Based on this, we're gonna go ahead and process all of the records. And to do that, we again go to the HR module, and then under periodic, we will now select process worker records. And in this dialog, we can choose to set this up as a batch, or you can select no, which means it's just a one-off run that you're doing. For now, we're going to set it to yes in batch. And this also means that if you had this configured with an API connection, this whole process would be fully automated. So now that we said yes to the batch processing, I'm going to select OK. And the HR Connect add-in will now take those Sympa worker records, and it will start creating workers in Dynamics, employment history against the correct legal entities, project resources if you have set that up as a parameter, It will also go in and create system users, suppliers for each worker, and also update and maintain the bank accounts associated with those suppliers in case you're doing some kind of expense reimbursement out of Dynamics for your employees. Now, if you go back to Sympa, then I'm going to go back to my dashboard and we're going to have a look at one of my direct reports that's been set up against my user. So we got Luca here, and we'll try and find Luca in the data that we just processed in D365 using the HR Connect add-in, and we'll just validate that all of the information looks okay. So his name is Luca Samuel. Got his email here. If we go down to his personal details, then down here we can see that, so we would expect that to be set up against his employee supplier as well. Then if we go to employment details, then we can see that there's a start of employment on the 1st of September 2011. That will also be reflected back in Dynamics. And obviously if Luca ended up being terminated, then that would also be reflected in Dynamics. So if we go back to Dynamics, back here, then we'll try and find Luca and see all of the data that the HR Connect is automatically creating based on the data we are receiving from Sympa. So first off, we'll just check in our imported worker records that Luca has been processed just fine. So I'm gonna search on Luca, and we can see here that the status is now processed, which indicates to us that all of the associated records has been processed just fine. And if we just go over to the company that he's been created in, which is GBSI, then I will switch over to that company to make sure that we have access to all of the information. So now that I'm in GBSI, let's go and have a look at Luca in the list of employees. So in here, we can see that there's now a lot of Sympa users that has been imported. I will then search for Luca, who we have right here. And if we go and look at Luca's employment history, we can now see that he's registered here as being employed in GBSI and employed as of the 1st of September 2011. In addition to this, the system is also able to assign default dimensions based on various values that we are receiving from Sympa. So from a financial setup, Luca is actually ready to start registering transactions against. Furthermore, we can go and have a look at the expense tab to see if there's a supplier associated with Luca now. And we can see here that the system has associated a supplier with Luca. And here we go. We can see that the supplier has been created with the same name as the employee, which we would expect. And we'll go and have a look at that particular record a little bit later. Then we are also going to go and see if Luca has now been configured to start registering project transactions against. So we go to the project management accounting module, and then he needs to be listed in here as a project resource. So we're going to search for him again, Luca, and we can see he is created here exactly as we would expect. So that now means that we can start registering time and expenses and various other transactions against Luca in the system. Now, if we go to the system administration module, we just need to verify that there is a system user created for Luca. So I'm going to search for his name again. And here we can see that there's a user created for Luca, and it's already been defaulted to the company that he's hired in. The system user has also been associated with his HR worker record. So the only thing that's left to do from a system setup perspective is to enable his user and then assign the correct security privileges. The last thing we just need to check is that if we go to our accounts payable module, that he sits in there as a supplier, which we already did validate. So once again, we search on Luca. If I open up his account here, then we can see that based on some of the parameters that's been set up in HR Connect, the correct vendor group has been assigned to him. In addition to that, we can also see that the financial dimensions has been defaulted onto the supplier we are creating. And if we open up the bank accounts, then in here, we now have a bank account registered against his employee supplier with the IBAN number that was registered in Sympa. And obviously, if Sympa had passed on other banking information, that would have been on here as well. So I hope you enjoyed that little walkthrough of how HR Connect can automate the integration to an HR system such as Sympa, and also automate all of the creation and maintenance of the HR data in Dynamics.